What's up, guys? Today I wanted to revisit another classic LG phone, the LG V50. Haven't talked about this one in a while, and I just really like this phone. I had a few people ask me about this phone, and I would definitely just get the V60. I know a lot of people are asking because they live overseas and it's affordable. I would just spend a little extra money and get the V60, but the V50, to me, I think this phone still has some very cool stuff about it. So the design on here, when I first picked it up again, I was like, man, this phone looks really good. I think LG had really a kind of a futuristic design going on here because it just looks extremely sleek, very classy phone. And the reason is because it's got this completely flat camera bump, which is really cool. It was on the G8 as well, and it was really cool. You really don't see that at all these days, so that's just really cool engineering. The thing about the flat camera bump though is that this phone will slip and slide all over the place on a flat surface, but it does truly lay flat, which is really nice for typing like that. So I really like that. So the design, I think, is beautiful. I actually think it looks better than the V60. But yeah, just a really pretty design still in this late 2023. So another thing that stood out to me on the V50 was the display. It's a beautiful display, and it is better than the V60. It's a 1440p display compared to the V60's 1080p, and it's really nice. It's really sharp, especially when looking at 2K content. It's a 6.4-inch display, 1440p, and then it's 538 for the PPI, so just an extremely sharp looking panel on here. And you have the old school notch on here as well too, which honestly it still doesn't look that bad because, I mean, let's be real, Apple still has the notch in their latest iPhones, iPhone 14. Yeah, so I think the overall display here, I was just really impressed with the panel on here. It's completely flat and just looks really sharp. Icons and everything just look really nice, like it painted on. I've always really liked these LG displays. So I decided to load up PUBG to see if it was going to still play well, and of course it's still going to play really well. We can still play at HDR Extreme. And like I told people, we're going almost into 2024. The Snapdragon 855 is still super efficient. So regardless of whether you get an S10 or something like that, it'll still beat a Galaxy A54 and A24, whatever mid-range phones they have. It'll still beat these phones in benchmarks and overall just gaming performance here. You can see still able to play at HDR Extreme, and it's super smooth still. So yeah, we have the Snapdragon 855 on here. This phone does have SD card support and the headphone jack with the quad DAC, of course. And yeah, my experience with this phone still in 2023 is still very fast. Nothing about this phone feels even remotely slow at all. So I'm really impressed with the overall speed of the V50 as well too. And you do have 128 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM, or 6 gigs of RAM, sorry, on the base model. So yeah, so overall my experience with the V50, just messing around with it, launching apps, it's still blazing fast, guys. Also, I wanted to mention the really cool lighting 5G logo on the back. I think this was at least one of the first wave of phones to get the whole 5G thing, if you guys can see that. I thought that was really cool. And let's talk about some of the hardware a little bit more. The physical fingerprint scanner is on the back, and honestly it's still really fast, and I don't have any issue with it at all. Like I said, you have the headphone jack for the quad DAC. This does technically have stereo speakers. Yeah, it's actually a dedicated speaker. I was thinking about the it was one of the G8 phones that had the under display speaker. It was really weird. Yeah, this one has, yeah, this is dedicated. If you lay the phone flat, you get a ton of bass. Overall sound quality is pretty good. If you cover the bottom speaker, this one still puts out a pretty decent amount of sound. Now let's talk about the cameras a little bit more here. So the V50 has a 12 megapixel standard and a 12 megapixel telephoto with 2x optical zoom, and then a 16 megapixel ultra wide. It shoots in 4K 60 with an 8 megapixel selfie cam and then a 5 megapixel wide cam, so you have two cameras up front, and that only shoots in 1080p. And basically the photos on here, I was kind of surprised. It still takes some pretty good shots, to my surprise. Really good color, really good natural color. The only thing I would say is that compared to newer phones, it probably doesn't do as good in low light like most older phones. But honestly, if you're in daylight conditions, the V50 does take some pretty good shots actually. Like I said, besides that, I thought the selfie cam was a little soft too. But everything else still does a fairly decent job. So I was kind of impressed. Video quality is also pretty good on the V50 as well too. So overall, I'm not, I'm not shocked that the camera's good. Yeah, so overall, no issues with the camera on here. I think it actually still takes really good shots in outdoors. Now, this was one of those phones where I just didn't get the updates because this is actually a Sprint phone. And Sprint went out of business, and they were always a bad just phone company in general. So yeah, I just never got updates. I think this one is stuck on like Android 12 or 11. No, it's stuck on like Android 11 or something like that. Yeah, but this phone also has actually pretty good battery life still. It had really good battery life and really good standby time as well too. This has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, so it's not a super big battery, but you'd be surprised. The battery life and standby time is really good on here. It also has 18-watt charging and wireless charging on board. So yeah, so just revisiting the V50 here. I really like it. The screen, I think, is really beautiful, and I think it's just hardware-wise, it's a really nice looking phone here. You have the headphone jack, SD card support, fairly decent cameras, and yeah, it's just super fast too. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.